Hi, I'm going to talk about mammoths in Crossout using some pretty lousy recording software, but hey. Um, so they have some issues. Um, they are gigantic. They are absolutely enormous weapons, and they're super heavy. Um, this is sitting on a carapace. This is one of the only kind of builds I find works with dual mammoths. Um, this is their radius, so you just can't put anything around them. Um, you can't put these side by side on any cabin in the game, not even a humpback. They would have to be at different angles because the cabin itself is not big enough to have these two uh, at equal points on on the roof of the cabin. Um, so to have them side by side, the cabin would have to be really wide, about twice as wide as this. Actually, more than twice as wide as this, which just makes it almost impossible to use. The reason I am using this streamlined kind of setup is because they're so heavy. Um, if you start adding armor structure to get into like the see, this is 6,351 power score. If you start getting into 10,000, 12,000, you simply can't move. There's nothing in the game that can move you to any appreciable degree. You can see this isn't fast right now. When you add an extra 6,000 power score of armor, it just grinds to a halt. And I just find it becomes impossible to play. So, you know, I've talked about frame only builds, and I really hate them. I think they're pretty cheap, but if the frame did not add health to this vehicle, um, this thing would have basically no health. It's got a wall and two pieces. That's it. Um, and it's this slow because it's just so, these weapons are so heavy. And I have to have this amount of frame to support. I could take off these, you know, uh, this isn't actually frame, this is support pieces. I could make it slightly smaller, but you pretty much need to have this, and as a minimum, maybe take off this back, but can't make it much faster. Um, you can add an engine, and that's about the only thing that you can do, an MK2 engine, to make the guns better. Um, this has a large expanded ammo pack. Might as well. You're going to need ammo anyway. You use one pack. It's about 100 power score. Um, so yeah, the problems with this, besides it being extremely heavy, I don't think they factored that in because essentially your DPS, or I should say damage per game, is going to be a lot lower because this is how fast you move. You just can't get around to shoot anything. Um, in Crossout, every game has a cap point, and so you need to be mobile. Um, it's fine if you're kind of slow. That's scavenger and Steppenwolf kind of gameplay, but you need to bring the pain when you come, otherwise you're just slow. Um, so this thing can do quite a lot of damage when it hits, but that reload is really also what kills it. The shots the shot projectile is slow. The turret traverse is about the slowest in the game. So if I say, hey, there's someone to the opposite side of me, okay, let's turn these guns, let's get going, and let's get there. So that's really slow. Um, and because the weapons are so heavy, it's not easy to have a mobile, agile vehicle that you can help turn it and get the guns on target. Their accuracy on the move is also terrible. So not only are you slower than everyone, you're less accurate than everyone because you're going to be driving the whole time, and your guns turn slower than everyone. So all those things adding up, and you have a perk that's based on how fast you can shoot and get on target, and you're the worst at those things. I'm shooting at stationary targets here. If I have to go, okay, let me try and get my extra bonus perk, and yeah, I ran out of time. That's shooting against stationary targets in the test environment. Um, Again, it does help to have a MK2 engine. You can't see many places to put it on this. If you add it, you're going to probably want to armor it, and that slows you down as well. And of course raises your power score. I find not only when I get to higher power score with this, um, I'm very slow, but also people have the weapons to and the speed and the armor to deal with me. Um, the issue with these guns is, again, they're just massive. This gun is as big as this cabin, and that's not a joke. You can't hide these weapons. They have a massive amount of structure. 1167, which can be raised with a co-driver perk, but having a weapon you can't hide, that is slow to turn, makes your vehicle slower. I mean, you can see it in the distance there. There's no scope there. I have no problem hitting those guns from here, because it's just gigantic. So I've been outshot easily with rare machine guns, with just about everything, because of the cooldown on these weapons, and because you can't hide them. They're just targets. And it's nice that they have a lot of health, but if they were the size of a sledgehammer shotgun, they would be vastly more powerful, even if they had the health of a sledgehammer shotgun, because they could then be hidden inside structure pieces and behind structure pieces. You really can't do a lot with these without creating significant weight issues, and slowing yourself down even further. So I think the gun's a lot of fun. It does fit kind of the scavenger motif of being big and slow and armored and such, but in real gameplay, it's not that armored. Its slowness is not compensated for with its ability to do damage. So I am going to play a game here, and hopefully you can see how it works. I've actually had some pretty good results with this, I think partly because I keep the power score low, and people aren't used to seeing double mammoths. So it can do well against fast builds against vehicles that can circle me, or a lot of drones. It's very poor. I do have the weapons grouped. I could fire them singly, but I'm just lazy. So we're gonna putter along here. Cannons in general are, I think they talk about them in the in-game help as being excellent long range, but they're very poor long range. The projectile travel time is slow. They are inaccurate. You can see the bloom on the reticle, and it takes a while to unbloom. I'll take a shot. Of course I go between all three. Hey, just shoot me in the back, guys. Don't mind me. Okay, I suck. So this isn't a fault of the guns, this is me being bad. Okay, this guy's a issue. So that's nice, but that's protected guns. So I hit him for 800, and I don't think I took out one gun. Jeez. This guy's just gonna push me because I got heavy tracks, and you can push heavy tracks. Yeah, that's fun. Don't mind me. Well, blew him apart, but that's fine. And well, where are these guys over here? Okay, I'll self-destruct. Kabloom. Well, that was silly of you. So I did poorly. My overlay kind of does slow down my reaction, so I'm going to blame that. I would have normally killed all of them now. So that, you could see some of the issues there, just the weapons are slow. I got unyielding. So he was higher power score. So about the same power score up and down. So I did some damage. That is, yeah, this is slow because of the overlay. But hopefully get into another game quick. Yay, and hopefully it's not a big map. It's taking me a while to load. So this does really well if no one shoots at me, or no one pushes me, or I don't have to go far. But I think you could even double the damage of these weapons and they wouldn't be tremendously overpowered. I know it sounds crazy, but it's just it takes so long to get around with them. I had tried hovers. Ironically, the scavenger equipment has trouble moving these things with a lot of armor. You get tracks on or large wheels, and yeah, you're slow. Those are heavy equipment. The legs, ML legs, can work, but you're by default super slow on those. Maybe I should concentrate on the game a little. And those are nice rats because they do take away the recoil. What I was going to say they forgot is if you have a the epic cabin and hovers, it won't, your reticle size, your aim time won't slow down with hovers ever. Um, they did it with the Steppenwolf cannon, where it considers going slow good enough to activate the perk of the cannon, but not it won't use the humpback perk, where it increases your reticle cooldown, ooh. Oh, that was terrible. My goodness. Please stop shooting me. I'm your friend. Oh, so that was pretty good. I mean, I just drove around a bit, but I'm not used to talking and playing. So, yeah, if you have hovers with these, you can move much faster, but because these things are so tremendously heavy, if you lose one, like if you have two, and the reason I have two is because they're 6 power, or 6 energy. You should be able to have two. You can have two Fat Man, or two Quasars, or two Hurricanes, or two Reapers, or whatever. But these are so heavy that if you lose one, you're just going to be so unbalanced. You're going to go careening off to the side and just smash into things constantly, because you're going to have just one off-center mammoth. You can do like this and try and center them, but then you're just going to be really tall. The ML legs I was talking about a bit. It does absorb the recoil, but it does raise your whole platform up. These are already tall weapons. I don't see a lot being added by having them even taller. You can't turn these, sideways or upside down. If you could put them upside down, or even sideways, I could see a little more use. For, like, especially the ML legs, you could have them hanging down, and or to the side. They just take up less space. You could put it on either side of the cabin, as opposed to having to mount it like this on the side of the cabin, where you have to have it spaced out a bit, because it takes up this big bubble. So it doesn't feel that legendary. Long story short, you can do a lot of damage with them, but they're fragile, because they're just so gigantic, and they slow you down so much, and they turn so slowly. I find when I get in firefights with heavily weaponed opponents up close, I gotta take out their weapons, or severely damage their weapons in the first salvo, because I got this really long cooldown. I believe it's 6 seconds. So, if you miss, that's huge. You're like, okay, I'm just waiting for this thing to cool down there. And in that time, I've usually lost one gun. And then, it's just a losing battle. So I'm not sure what to do. I think, and we've talked about this a lot, the perk just does not fit this weapon at all. You're too slow. It shoots too slowly. It's not very accurate. It's not accurate on the move at all. Oh, and hovers. You're basically constantly moving. You're never standing still. So these things suffer on the move penalties all the time. Just makes them very difficult to use. And the recoil on them is very significant. So you go flying. It was an idea. I was like, maybe I could use hovers on these, and they were screaming in agony as they tried to lift these, and I was like, wow, if you take off, if you balance it for two and then lose one, you're gone. Even if they just take off one gun, you can't fly. Um, you're just dragging along the ground. Um, so again, this is like a seal clubbing build. I mean, it's still 6,000 power, but it's two legendaries. Um, and almost nothing else. um, really just nothing. Tracks. But these tracks, um, I would need a bunch of wheels. The power score ends up being pretty close to the same, maybe 270 instead of 320. It's not tremendous difference, and it provides some protection from the side. But yeah, if these things, uh, it's tough to use mammoths in high power score games, and if you do use them, you're going to get outshot. They just don't have enough firepower to stand up to an equivalent amount of power of shotguns or machine guns or nearly anything. So yeah, it does pretty decent seal clubbing. Um, it can do okay. It can do great if no one's shooting at you, and you don't have to drive a long way. Um, I find it doesn't. I didn't actually do as well putting a scope on because unless you get used to the arc of these shells and the slow travel time, um, it's misleading, and I don't use a scope enough. Um, so yeah, I'd like to see some changes with them. Um, First, some they maybe some damage resistance. I'm thinking, if you really want to go the scavengers meta, I know they have a ton of health. Um, we bunk, but they just it doesn't really pan out when blue guns can disarm you. Rare guns, uh, it doesn't feel legendary. Uh, I have a similar Fat Man build, um, and this thing is super destructive. I have this wheel on the back. I call it a training wheel, to prevent what you saw before, where I just got pushed around. It's very hard to push this, um, but the big difference is, that cooldown. This thing is just a machine gun compared to a mammoth. It does have better DPS in, I think, like 99% of the cases. It can have more health because the weapons aren't so heavy. And got a little engine on the back there. And it's much faster, as you can see. The guns turn quicker, the barrels are shorter, so they can get on target faster. Um, just this does so much better, and they are about equivalent power scores. Oops. Oh, I got rid of it. So it was a 6,300 and versus like 6,200. Um, yeah, I want to like the Mammoth a lot more, but I think it needs some work. It, like I said, damage resistance would be nice. Maybe something with the to interact with the tracks, which are scavenger. I don't know. Um, the only thing you can do to buff those is, again, to put the MK2 engine on it, and it works, but it's just not that much, and So you can't put them exactly next to each other because I think those little bars on the side, whatever reason, they're just too big to have completely equal. And this is as big as it gets. So they pretty much have to be in front of each other unless you just want to make an ultra wide uh, vehicle that can't navigate just about anywhere. Um, so yeah, I'd like to see. Oh yeah, so this what I was saying was this cabin does not work with the hovers that speed up aim time when you're 100% stationary. It should also be when you're really slow or very almost slowed down. That would make cannons work more efficiently with hovers when using this cabin. Um, so I just wanted to go over that instead of typing it out for the 100th time. Hopefully this makes sense. I don't do a lot of game videos, so uh, if you feel the same way, post about it, comment to the devs, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.